Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Simisalajigun. The ongoing hunger and economic hardship protests tagged #End Bad Governance have been suspended in Lagos to pay tribute to protesters who have died across the country for 3 days. The decision of the organizers in Lagos to suspend the protest was reached during a closed-door meeting where organizers had voiced their suspicion that protesters are being intimidated by unidentified people. Following President Bola Tinubu's national broadcast, the organizers faulted his speech and failure to address the demands of Nigerians and rather focused on his administration's achievement. Meanwhile, the Lagos High Court sitting in Igboshere has reaffirmed its earlier order restricting protesters in Lagos to freedom and peace parks in the Ojota and Ketu areas of the state. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, disclosed to journalists that at a press briefing that at least 5 people have been killed after the #End Bad Governance turned violent in some major cities, while the rights group Amnesty International says 13 protesters have been killed by security personnel.
Regrettably, events in some major cities today show that what was being instigated was mass uprising and looting, not protest. Those who were in the forefront of promoting the idea of the protest were not around to lead it. Hoodlums have been let loose on innocent Nigerians and their hard-earned businesses and property looted and destroyed. The motive of the rioters was basically two: loot and destroy both private and government property. The destruction so far has been mind-boggling. There has been destruction in Kano, Borno, Yobe, Kaduna, Gombe, Bauchi, FCT, Abuja, Niger, and Jigawa. Police stations have been destroyed. There have been attempts to take over government houses, looting of government infrastructures. Several warehouses and shops so far have been looted and in several instances completely destroyed. In places like FCT, Kaduna, Kano, and Gombe, among others, we recorded incidents of unprovoked attacks on our security personnel, where one policeman has been reported murdered and others seriously injured. In spite of the refusal of the protesters, for instance in FCT, to adhere to a court order requesting that protests in Abuja should be at the National Stadium, they trooped into the streets, and yet the police provided security for them. At no point did we breach their fundamental rights, even as they breached court orders.
Well, to further discuss this is legal practitioner Justice Ochiena, who joins me from another part of Lagos. Thank you for making time to be on the program, Justice. Now, you have been on the protest ground in Lagos since the beginning, monitoring the situation and looking out for how well the rights of protesters are upheld or respected. Now, organizers have suspended it, before the initial planned last day, which is August 10. What do you think has prompted this change in plan, to stage the protest for 10 days?
For me, because I have the front row seats when it comes to the organizers informing me, or the coordinators informing me of what their next steps are because of the role I'm playing with the protesters by actually ensuring that they comply. Most of the protesters comply with the provisions of the law and their rights are greatly protected. So they informed me that the reason why they are putting the protest on hold in Lagos State, especially at the Ganifa Park, is to ensure that they mourn their fellow protesters in other parts of Nigeria who didn't enjoy the level of security and protection that they enjoyed while the protest was going on in Ganifa Park, particularly the persons who were killed by law enforcement. So they feel that the remaining parts of the protest, they want to use it to mourn those particular persons. And we also see that it's not that far from a good and timely decision, because we saw what eventually happened the day after the last successful protests that held at the park. We saw that the hoodlums were now more emboldened because of the absence of security operatives and they started haranguing journalists. Even journalists were not spared, right on camera, to the glare and stare of the whole world. So it's very, very unfortunate that that eventually was what happened. And we feel that no matter what, no matter the kind of fear that is being exhibited, whether rightly or wrongly by law enforcement, it still doesn't deprive them of their role, their primary role of provision of security, so that the average Nigerian will be able to maximally enjoy his constitutionally guaranteed right to protest.
Now, this move to halt the protest in Lagos is quite surprising, especially after the initial refusal by protesters to stop, even after the president has urged them to shelve the action. They refused, the calls to stop protesting. Now, do you also agree that President Tinubu needs time to solve the economic problems based on citizens' demands?
Okay, we must, I really wouldn't blame the protesters, because some of them felt that some of their requests were low-hanging fruits that the president could have straight ahead ordered to be done immediately. Remember in 2012, when there was a similar protest, which the present president who participated in, he made certain demands of the government of the day, including that the fuel subsidy, the amount that the pump price of fuel should be drastically reduced. And what happened? Immediately, pronto, the president of the day, being Goodluck Jonathan, acceded to your request, even though he didn't do it to the extent that they wanted, but there was an immediate reduction in the cost of PMS at the time. That was what the protesters also expected, but the president didn't give it to them now. And part of another reason why they told some of us that they are back on the streets is because they've heard this time and time and time again. We recall what happened during the Buhari era, the first year, it was PDP, blame PDP for everything. Second year, blame PDP for everything. Third year, fourth year, fifth year, until it eventually became clear that they didn't even have a clue from day one of what they wanted to do. And the selling of hope, of course, which is the damnation of every politician, is compulsory for every politician to sell hope. The Nigerian politicians don't meet it, they don't match it with eventual achievements. So the fact that they are being promised again, wait for 2 more days, wait for 5 more days, wait for 10 more days, when there's something that could have been done immediately. And the fact that Nigerians don't the wait for 5 days, wait for 10 days, wait for 100 days becomes wait for 10,000, wait for 1,000 days becomes wait for 10,000 days. That forms the major reason why the Nigerian protesters just felt that, sorry, here we go again. We've heard this before. I won't believe you this time.
So we understand that some arrests have been made during the active phase of the demonstrations. Now, before the protest began, a coalition of lawyers across the nation, which you are a part of, had promised to offer free legal services to protesters. What's the update on that promised move? Have the processes begun, and how challenging has it been so far?
Okay, we have ours is a network of lawyers all across the country, and so far in Lagos State, and of course, referencing from the video that you're talking about, before that date, there were 3 tranches of releases. 3 persons were released on the first day of the protests by the police. The day after, 12 persons were released. We applied and got them released. And in the day you are referencing, just 1 person was in detention and was released. We are not aware of any other set of persons that are in detention in Lagos State. So we may not be able to talk on that part because we have direct communications with the detaining authorities, which is the Nigerian police. And it is the Commissioner of Police for Lagos State that has been graciously releasing to us every time we ask him that, okay, we have some protesters in your custody. He ensures that it goes whatever man he has to go to release them to us. But with respect to our networks in other parts of the country, of 60-something persons that were detained, I think in Katsina, 34 were immediately released. And we are still working on the bail, perfection of the bail of another 34. So we have them in various places. Even as we are speaking now, there's a possibility that some might have been arrested. So we've gotten people released practically all over the country, in Kaduna, Katsina, Nasarawa, some in DSS custody, some in the custody of the Nigerian police. So far so good. That those have been our activities, but in Lagos we are not aware of any other person.
Now, with the exception of Osun State in the southwest, where the protests have been shelved because of the Osun Osogbo festival there, Lagos State is the only other state in the southwest that has decided to honor protesters who have lost their lives, decided to stop the protest, to honor those who lost their lives in the course of the action. And what's your take on this move?
Okay, for me, I think that it's a strategic thing. We usually talk about one who fights and walks away, will live to fight another day. And it forms the major reason why the tactical retreat was deployed in Lagos State. It's not because Lagos State is withdrawing or the Lagos State arm of the coordinators. It is withdrawing from the activities of End Bad Governance movement nationally. That is to the best of my knowledge. Just like I also said, there were heightened security issues. The hoodlums on the other side are against the protesters, especially in Lagos. They seem to be gaining ground more and more with every passing day. And it is better to tactically retreat than to now be nursing bloodshed or other kind of casualties.
Finally, you're still monitoring the situation, I believe. So do you think that the protesters still have the zeal to continue after honoring those who have lost their lives or do you think they have been induced by the government to jettison the action?
Okay, for me, I feel that when persons are resisting powers or persons in authority like this, a lot of shenanigans are thrown at them. I have also been attacked severally by persons who say that I've been paid. In fact, I've been paid handsomely. Some are saying I've been paid handsomely, that's why I was on ground. Some are saying I've been paid handsomely, that's why I'm no longer on ground. So I will not also now blame I won't go very hard against anybody that says that the organizers have also been paid. That's why they are tactically retreating, or that's why they are retreating at all. So it's neither here nor there. Any way you go, you will be stroked. That's just what I feel the philosophy of this is. But as for whether they will come back on Saturday, I do not know. I am not one of the organizers, but I know that in the event that they make any such decision, they will actually definitely let me know in order for me to be able to be on ground for the purpose of joining other lawyers that are with me to continue these activities of ensuring that the rights of protesters are fully guaranteed, enjoyed, and ventilated. So that generally is my take on it. I'm not in a place to actually say it will either go ahead or not go ahead.
Well, then we'll keep a close watch on the situation and see how things unfold. Legal practitioner Justice Ogiena, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and experience so far at the protest in Lagos. It's time for a short break. The program will return shortly. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We're still discussing the suspension of protests. That's the hashtag End Bad Governance protest in Lagos. And my next guest is Public Affairs Analyst Nelson Ekojumi. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Now, protesters are dissatisfied with President Bola Tinubu's speech, which, according to them, failed to address the demand to especially repeal fuel subsidies, the removal of fuel subsidies, among other things. They've now compared him to former President Goodluck Jonathan, who had granted wishes of citizens after similar protests were held. Why do you think it is difficult, or let's say challenging, for President Tinubu to grant some of the desires of these protesters?
Thank you very much. I think it is important for us to situate issues appropriately and discerningly. When we went on protests in 2012 against former President Goodluck Jonathan, it was because we had a table of demands under a group called Save Nigeria, in which we gathered at Ojota. We didn't have a situation like we have today, where you have different demands from different groups. Every demand in 2012 was coalesced under a single platform called Save Nigeria. And in 2012, when we made those demands with regards to fuel subsidy, it was in reaction immediately to the deceit by former President Goodluck Jonathan, because in December of 2011, in November of 2011, we were still having discussion about the propriety or otherwise of fuel subsidy. And one thing came out very clear, which even former President Goodluck Jonathan admitted, that the fuel subsidy regime was a conduit pipe for corruption. Only for us to wake up on January 1st, 2012, and President Goodluck Jonathan, behind our back, removed the fuel subsidy. Why we went on protest against President Goodluck Jonathan was because President Goodluck Jonathan, was one president in our history who frittered away public wealth recklessly. And that was why we made those demands. And he had to adjust because he was caught pants down. We challenged former President Goodluck Jonathan with facts and not with emotions. Coming to 2024, those who are calling for the reversal of fuel subsidy must be told that fuel subsidy in the 2023 budget of the former administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari had stopped the payment for fuel subsidy regime, terminated on May 29, 2023. And when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed the reins of power, he said fuel subsidy was gone. So how can a government take up a policy or a project which we have all agreed that, look, this project is not viable? And almost one year and about 3 months, some persons, because of their own personal interests, are coming to tell the Nigerian people and the government. Don't forget that in a democracy, majority will have their way, while minority will have their say. These persons who are on protest are in the minority. They don't represent the generality of the Nigerian people who gave President Bola Ahmed Tinubu his mandate.
Now, we're also told that the protests were expected to last for 10 days, but the organizers have alleged that Lagos State-sponsored thugs, that's how they put it, intimidation by them, and the police unwillingness to assure the safety of demonstrators have forced them to tactically shelve the action. Do you think that these allegations have any iota of truth in them?
Well, when we got hints of a planned protest of 10 days, and we were like, what is the protest all about? They deceptively christened it or labeled it hashtag End Bad Governance. And if you look at a lot of the characters in the protests, these are people who contested elections in 2023 and they lost with their party. These are people who supported particular candidates who lost the election. a particular candidate of a party, anytime he loses the election, he will run to activism. He will be shouting revolution. And we are like, if you want to be a politician, be a politician. If you want to be an activist, be an activist. So talking about intimidation, well, I don't know about that. But one thing I know for free is that protest is not a tea party. Protest is a serious business. And if you're organizing a protest in which you have threatened to shut down Nigeria, to set Nigeria on fire, you should be rest assured that there are some persons who will say, no, it won't happen here. So if you had said, oh, we are going to hold a peaceful protest in XY place, and we are not going to disturb anybody who is not part of us, which is what the Constitution guarantees, you know, the right to protest and the right not to protest, the fundamental right to associate. If you had made those type of statements and people had seen it, that, oh, some people are going to protest too, they will not affect our business. But when you start issuing threats yourself, you know, like they say, violence beget violence now. It is their preamble that has brought them to where they are. So if you were issuing threats, we shut down Lagos, we shut down Nigeria, we'll set Nigeria on fire, there will be no movement. Traders, if they don't come out, we'll go and attack them. Abba, if you are making such vulgar statements, such uncivilized, barbaric, condemnable, reprehensible statements, you must expect a reaction. You know, an action begets a reaction. If you were using pacifying statements, statement of peace, I'm sure nobody will come and threaten you. So I want to believe strongly, because I don't have the facts. I want to believe strongly that it is what they have sown, you know, that they reaped.
Now, with all that you have said, how crucial is it for the government to look into the demands made by the protesters? Now, that's talking about the serious economic hardship in the country and cost of living crisis.
That is a statement of fact that we are going through economic hard times. And it is not only in Nigeria, it is all over the world. And we are all aware of the efforts that our governments are putting in place to address the economic hardship. For example, you can see that the federal government has removed taxes on importation of food items for the next 150 days in the first instance. You can see Mr. President in his presidential broadcast talked about providing fertilizers to the states because the federal government does not have land, that they are going to provide every necessary tools and equipment to ensure that the states invest heavily in agriculture. So if government is putting all this in place, you and I know very well that you don't expect whatever is put in place today to manifest the results tomorrow. These things needs time. So what we should be doing as a people, while we all agree that, you know, the cost of living is on the high side, it's affecting everybody. Let people not come and say, oh, it is only the masses that are suffering. Even the people that you assume are rich are also going through the economic challenges. But most importantly, if we have such tough times, like they say, or like a book, like the title of a book, tough times don't last, but tough people do. This phase will come and go, and we'll all look back and say, at a point in time, we went through these challenges. So I behold on Nigerians to let us be patient. Let us look at what the government is doing. Where we feel it is not going how we want it, we have a right to, you know, to voice out. And where we feel it is going well, we commend them and say we want more of this. And just in addition, we're also aware that the federal government has said she has given a truckload of rice to states to distribute and sell for about 40,000 naira. These are all part of the government is not magic. Government works through processes and procedures. Government does not manufacture any of the food items we are talking about. And even if government manufactures it, they need a lot of they need a lot of factors to be able to bring it to fruition. And even when they are going to manufacture it, they can't manufacture it in a day. Building have to be set up, machinery have to be installed, electricity has to be installed, employees have to be employed to come and work on those things. So people must recognize that the issue of food or the cost of living is something that the present government is taking seriously. And Mr. President has emphasized this over 1,000,000,000 times, including his aides, who are ministers, even state governments and local governments are also doing the same, that look, this is a trying phase, but we are going to overcome. Mr. President has assured us, and a lot of us believe him, that he will walk the talk.
Now, unlike the northern region of the country that has witnessed clashes and deaths of protesters and security personnel, the protests in Lagos State have been largely peaceful. Do you think that, do you also believe that residents are not as hard hit by the economic crisis as some protesters lamented on the floor of the protests?
Civilization in Nigeria. When Lagos sneezes, the whole of every part of Nigeria catches cold. Lagos is a mini Nigeria where you have very intelligent people as well as politically sophisticated. Why you have seen the protests of insurrection and anarchy of causing chaos is because the people of Lagos are still living with the trauma of NSAS in 2020. It's still haunting us, where people claim they were protesting against police brutality, only for them to start raping women, looting, burning private and public properties, burning TV stations, burning radio, newspaper houses, burning courts, Igboshere courts in Lagos. They went as far as burning the Nigerian Ports Authority. The Nigerian Port Authority headquarters. They burnt everything there, they looted. Please, in what way is Nigerian Ports Authority related to police brutality? In what way is a television station that is disseminating information, educating and entertaining people, in what way is it related to police brutality? So Lagosians were still living with the trauma of that. They burned BRT buses, that the ordinary man on the street, that is his only means of movement. Over 200 BRT buses were burnt. Not to talk of civilians and policemen that were killed. Abba. So Lagosians themselves said, no, if you want to do your protest, be ready to guarantee your own safety. For us, we will not be part of any protest again, because we have seen that any protest that you organize in the fashion of 2020 NSAS is a protest of destruction, is a protest of maiming, is a protest of killing. And we Lagosians, we are civilized, we are democratic people, we won't kill ourselves. Rather, we will love ourselves.
It's just a few days to when the protests are expected to end. That's August 10. We'll see how things play out until then. Public Affairs Analyst Nelson Ekujumi, thank you very much for making time to be on the program. That's all we have on this episode. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
Torí